Hey everyone, let's talk about the latest Final Fantasy III unit we've gotten this week. It's Red Mage Ingus. Alongside with him came Awakened Anya Knight, who is actually the star of this banner, but we'll get to that. The star of the show for today is Ingus, though, base form supporting Mage, but actually a Mage chainer slash finisher, so to say. One of his example abilities is an LB modifier increase 100x, and it's also his magic store, which is kinda cool. I like the stuff when they do compress some of these abilities, but not so much in the case that it's an absurdly strong one, but on a grander stake. Most of the older Neovision units that had the Amp, the Imbue, the LB mod buff, all these things packed into one. Sephiroth stuff, for example, is one of those examples which I didn't particularly like, because I'd like to have those things scattered out so I can use them more often. So in this case, 3 turns cooldown available turn 3, basically an SLB activation stuff or thing. But yeah, it's still a nice ability, so I like it. Alum did well in that regard. And in a Brave Shift, he is a debuffer unit. I do particularly like his sprites, both of them. So good job on the dev team who made this. But in Brave Shift, he is the classic breaker, has the old school style of 80% breaks or 83% breaks to all stats. Highly outdated, and it doesn't really get better from here on out. Well, the kid, he does have a lot of abilities, so kudos to Alum for actually making a unit that has some kind of kid nowadays, especially the Brave Shifted units, but it's still not enough, as you can see. Now, the base form left-hand side has 4 imbues and amps, which is highly appreciated to Earth, Wind, Water, and Fire. It's an imbue for 5 turns, and it's also an amp for 5 turns, but it's only 25%. While like I mentioned, I do appreciate the amps, but 25% amps in a meta where we have 100% AoE amps, for example, Earth and Lightning in that case, or at least 45% amps from different units, such as Roberta. She has 3, for example, at her disposal. So that's kind of meh. But for a JP unit, actually not that bad. Also, what's important to note is that in his base form, he does have a lot of true double hand magic, as you can see at the bottom. On the right hand side, you can see, that's his Brave Shift by the way, you can see that he doesn't particularly have a lot of passive stats. The 100% true double hand magic you're seeing on the bottom right, that's pretty much all there is. And the same applies to his limit burst damage. He only also has 100% passive LB damage, which is a huge issue in his Brave Shift form. If you wanted to use him as an LB finisher, yeah, that's gonna be an issue. You have to cap 2 very low stats with true double hand magic and limit burst, while also going for killers. And on my sheet especially, this is going to be really tough with dual races. So yeah, in that case, he isn't that good. Now, what's also cool about him is that he has a 300x all magic modifier increase, which is only active, or which is activated by his TMR or STMR. You will use the STMR most likely because it's pretty good. And what I do appreciate a lot about his kid are the elemental fields. He has 35% imperil fields to wind, water, earth, and fire. Now, truth be told, he is massively power crept in the water and earth department, because for water we have Nicole, crowned Nicole, mind you. And in the earth department we do have Tsukiko. Now, wind, I believe we also have a very strong contender, one that is better, but I forgot the unit that was better in this case. But fire, on the other hand, that's where he actually shines. So in case of fire element, Ingus is, technically speaking, the best unit to bring for his fire fleet. He's the highest one, so for the time being. Tsukiko, only has 30% fire emperor, which is still good, mind you. But if you're going by pure stats, yeah, Ingus kind of takes the cake here. But still, he would deal less damage than Tsukiko, so it would be a very close matter whether you want to bring Tsukiko over Ingus, but then again, everybody benefits from that 5 percentage points more Imperial field, so hard to say which is better, but still, for fire, he is a very, very good option. Though fire is not the best element right now. The LB and SLB. The base form LB is just a supporting one. It unlocks his quadcast. It's also 300% magic boost, and it's 400x modifier increase to his Ga spells. This is Thundega. I read the Japanese out of habit. What else? Firega and yeah, the other ones. And then there is the Ra spells, which get a 300x modifier increase, while also at the very end of all this stuff, he also stores magic 300% instantly, while also having a 50% SPR reduction, which is kind of the standard nowadays. I don't mind it, you can always play around this. So, which is totally fine. I like his base form LB, it's pretty good, it's well done, no complaints from my side. The Brave Shifted LB though is a huge disappointment in my opinion. As a debuffer unit, especially as a brand new debuffer unit, he would have deserved some more love. He only has 87% defense and spirit breaks, whereas your average SLB trash gets 89% spirit breaks for magic debuffers and 89% defense break for physical debuffer units. So I don't know what Alam's thought process was in this case. Maybe Alam just hates Brave Shift units and makes them worse on purpose. I don't know, but giving him an inferior Brave Shifted LB, Breaking LB, I don't quite understand this. On the flip side though, he has 140% imperils to fire, wind, water and earth, which is very cool. However, or that said I should say, his Brave Shifted LB is a 4 element 250x modifier magic attack. The 4 elements he strikes with are fire, water, earth and wind. Does that sound familiar to you? If you've been around for Whimsical Winter Tiana last year, you kind of know where this is coming from. So my first initial thought was basically that Alam tried to copy Tiana here, and if so, you did not learn the lesson from Tiana. 4 element limit bursts are not bueno. Take the current Dark Vision boss. You'd be in huge trouble because the current Dark Vision boss, as far as I am aware, is weak to light, water and wind, meaning fire and earth are pretty much dead elements, and he'd deal a lot less damage in that case, which is very unfortunate. At least it's Bolting Strike variant 1, the good kind of Bolting Strike, so that's something I'd say. But all in all, while the Brave Shift with LB is nice for the imperils themselves, it doesn't really do much else. So all his good damage is from chaining, for example, Thundega, which you can amp by 100% these days. And one of the other issues is that Ingus himself has no, and that's pretty much all the important parts, he has no 100% or 150% self-amp to either of these elements. If he had, he'd be better, but still, even without those, he is very, very mid. And that's kind of disappointing. So let's check out his TMR STMR vision card. The TMR is your standard series locked materia for Final Fantasy III units only in this case, with 500 static attack and magic and 50% Omni Killer, which is fine. It's for Final Fantasy III units, it's good. It's excellent on Onion Knight, for example, but ironically, Onion Knight will probably never end up using them outside of single race fights. So yeah, it's kind of iffy, but it's still a good material for Final Fantasy 3 units, don't get me wrong on that one. The Super Trust Master is where it's at. It's a very good side grade to Lynx's STMR and obviously the Clash Helmet. So it is 60 attack, 80 magic, 50 spirit, has 50% true double hand or magic true double hand, which is very nice. And Ingus himself gains 500 static magic. Like I mentioned, whereas Lynx's STMR buffs 50% LB damage, this one buffs 50% magic through double hand. Both have their very good cases, so I'd love to have one copy of this or two maybe, but that's about it. It's a really good STMR, I don't mind it at all. And like I mentioned, I'd like to have it. And the vision card is your standard, albeit fluff series card, 110 attack and magic. At base level 4 gains you a Guts, which is cool. It's kind of unique in comparison to all the other series vision cards. And the Guts activation is at 30%, which I do prefer. Has 50% LB damage and 500 static attack and magic for Final Fantasy 3 units only. So all in all, TMR decent or strong for Final Fantasy 3 units, but useless outside obviously. Very good STMR, in fact one of the best, a good side grade to, like I mentioned, Lynx's Vision STMR or the Clash Helmet, or Return Fena's STMR too. And the Vision card, all in all, it is bad, so to say. There's plenty better options, but it is more interesting than your average series card, I'll give them that. On the other hand, this one has no passive magic, which could lead to other issues. But that aside, I like the fluff with the Guts, so it's cool. Alright, now let's get to the damage calculation assumptions. As always, if you want to read all of these assumptions at your own pace, pause the video. Otherwise, let's move on to the builds. So this is the Ingus build. I built this fairly early, I believe on Tuesday or so, so that's why you're still reading Japanese names, but all of this applies for the final version as well. I checked a few minutes ago before I recorded this video. And yeah, all in all, the Brave Shift, like I mentioned earlier, isn't really worth calculating here. Mainly because he has only 100% LB and magic through double hand in Brave Shift. This particular build is against Machina and Insect, uses Sylvie's 100% Lightning Amp, and it also uses 3 new things mainly, which I will adjust for everybody on my sheet very soon, probably at the end of November when I do have my vacation, 2 weeks, it should be more than enough to fix the spreadsheet. But yeah, what's new? So every unit going forward will, if they can and if it fits obviously, use the 3 new dark vision weapons, the Abyss weapons. They will always use 2 clash pieces, meaning either the Ruler's chainmail if they can wear it, or the Celestite Ruler's garb, and one of the rings most likely. And the ring is most likely always going to end up being the Magistus ring for consistency. Obviously, if gearing allows for it, the Ruler's version is better, but in that case I will go for Magistus, because not every unit is as slot efficient as, say, Chizuru or Tsukiko, so I don't want to inflate numbers way too much on any unit in the future, so Magistus ring it is. Now, I don't calculated him, or I didn't calculate him with the focus magic. He does quad cast, absolutely, and it'd be kind of iffy, because if he does quad cast, only the very first cast gets the benefit from the focus magic. Is it worth it? I feel like not, so kind of whatever. And I was this consistent with all the other units as well. So Roberta also doesn't have focus magic in her quad cast, as do other quad cast mages. So it's for consistency, it's fine, it doesn't matter in the end. So when you increase or use all his modifiers increases and the base 72x, you end up at 3088x modifier for, say, Thunder Eagle. Now let's also check out Sage's build, not Ingus build, sorry. And Sage, or Awakened Onion Knight, is using the new wand, which has 4 of 5 magic. Very good, very good. But all in all, as you can see, he has a lot less MP than, say, what's his name, Golbez. That's because he has very low base magic points as well as passive magic points, and in fact it's only 60%. So in a worst case or at the worst case scenario, which I always do in these calculations, he has to sacrifice quite a lot for magic percent. As you can see, Miracle Magic and Cool Beauty are in this, which leads to his killers being really bad. He only has 125 for Machina, for example, and he is built for Machina and Aquatic in this case. So if you calc him for his best case scenario, he has a lot of free room and can do a lot of cool stuff, so he does perform rather well. And in this case, with his TMR bonus added, he ends up at 5,654 Axe Meteor +2 modifier, which is really high. Alright, and let's check out the calculation, the results. So surprisingly, even though the modifier in total is lower on Awakened Onion Knight, Awakened Onion Knight actually performs slightly better than Golbez in this calculation, that is. And again, very important here, only Ingus and AOK have the new Dark Visions weapons equipped. The others don't have them yet. Focus on that yet. I will fix that like I mentioned. So yeah, all in all, Ingus is 65% of AOK's damage. Using Sakura's TMR isn't worth it. Sakura's TMR, if you're not aware, is increasing the Thundega damage, but that, as you can see, doesn't always lead to more damage. Now, Sinsara, he calculates for rather easy cases or best cases, and in that case, as he found out, the Sakura TMR is actually very much worth it. So it actually depends on the use case. In a worst case scenario, you're not using it. In a good / best case scenario, you will end up using it. And Awakened Onion Knight is 101.92% of Golbez's damage. It is neck and neck, and it's not always as clear-cut as it is in this calculation, or as it is apparent right now. There will always be cases where Golbez performs slightly better, but there are also cases where Onion Knight will perform slightly better. Whoops, sorry. I hope that wasn't too loud. So, what I also wanted to mention is that Onion Knight can widen the gap when he fights his innate type, so that's also something to keep in mind. But overall, as you can see, Awakened Onion Knight is actually the star of this banner, and Ingus is just STMR fodder, I would say. So yeah, the verdict. The good things about Ingus, rather short, 35 peril fields for fire, water, earth and lightning, with 140% peril from the LB, has a good TMR and vision STMR, vision card, absolutely not. But on the other hand, the amps are massively outdated and has no real party support. For example, killers, he's entirely missing that. He has no weapon imperils whatsoever. He has super bad breaks for a debuffer, only roll unit, a bad vision card. The Brave Shift is actually a nightmare to gear, even though I didn't deduct a point for this, and I also didn't deduct a point for the weapon imperil because he has the field effects, and I feel like, yeah, if he has that, it kind of excuses having no weapon imperil, but I still want to really mention that he has none, because this would have made him a pretty decent unit if he had it, but as with most JP units, he is very much dependent on others doing the good job for him, i.e. killers, weapon imperils, buffs, yeah, you know the drill. So in all fairness, he's still a decent 3 out of 10. A 3 out of 10, again, does not mean that a unit is bad, it just means it's niche usage, in his case, fire teams, because that's where he excels at, and you won't bring him for anything else. So all in all, Ingus is a terrible breaker, but a niche multi-element Imperial unit that sort of has the same issues such as units such as Tiana, and gets power crapped by existing units. So all in all, he's not worth the investment unless you really plan on using a fire team. I don't know what you would use it on, but that's an option you could pursue. But I personally didn't go for him. But I do want to have one of his STMRs at some point, so an off banner I'll gladly take it. But it's an easy skip, and that's pretty much the end of this review. So thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from, and catch you guys on the next one. Bye.